Or will it be, you know, again, looking more towards the Azir and a jungler for LNG? Let's wait and see. BLG hovering over the LeBlanc, right? If it's not broke, don't fix it. Part of the composition really worked well. And they could look, again, towards either the Ksante or the Sejuani super early on. It's really up to them. Varus on 3 then as well would then be my best guess for Elk, unless he wants, you know, again, something like the Aphelios to kind of try and match up to the hyper carry power that Xayah can be as a AD carry.
I feel like we need to see some kind of extension of this meta where we've got Jace and Tristana are your 2 AD mids that like to go with a Maokai, with an Ivan. I feel like we need a third AD mid. I feel like somebody's going to bring something out eventually that actually can still go with those combos, can still be a powerful tool. I don't know. Well, maybe that's just wishful thinking. Elk going to go for the Aphelios here, though, alongside that LeBlanc, and it will be the Maokai and Azir once again. I love how quick LNG are on their second rotation. They always know exactly what they want, and it's always Azir for Scout.
Yeah, it always lands on Azir for Scout. So let's see, because now this composition is excellent at not being, though, very similarly to game number 1, right? This time around, though, it's just the Xayah, which honestly definitely a bit of an upgrade when you think about priority in the meta, and also the fact of how the feathers work, of course. So now BLG, how do they layer out their bans? Are they just gonna, you know, go towards something like Gwen plus X here into Zika and just call it a day? Will they look to remove away Hunk's champion pool? I feel like their options are quite wide open. LNG, I feel like a little bit more pigeonholed likely into removing away the Sejuani and then something else from Shun, right? Perhaps something like the Vi. Even though you've got the Xayah, you don't really want to have that pressure put down onto the Azir. 2 jungle bans, though, almost certainly coming out. I mean, they removed away the Kindred the last time around, right? They're actually kind of worried about that. I wonder if it'll be the case as BLG on the, you know, on the money here with the bans very, very quickly, both rotations. This time out, though, the Camille as opposed to that Gwen. But I feel like, again, if Zika goes towards the Gwen, this is probably the thinking here from BLG. If they go towards Gwen, they've got so much magic damage that, you know, Merc Tread's value, MR value in general just rises very, very quickly. So BLG aren't too fussed about that. So I like this idea here from BLG with those 2 AD top laner bans. See if they can push Zika onto the Gwen as there's the Kindred. So now, what will there be for Shun? As again, engage pool kind of limited. Are they going to really give him R5? If this is obviously a hover, of course. Will it be a support on 4? Will it be on 5? Lee Sin? Wouldn't be too bad, right? Very strong skirmishing, 2v2 from Shun and Yagao. Always a very solid way to go. As Kha'Zix kind of spells that same thing too, and it will go through. So LNG, what is your answer into this now? As BLG, again, to me, Munch, lean a little bit away from traditional 5v5 team fighting and a lot more heavily into the skirmishing.
Yeah, we'll see if LNG can set up for those team fights, but like you say, skirmish city here for BLG. Everyone a fighter, everyone wants to get into that scrap, and that is BLG in a nutshell, isn't it? Nautilus taken up here to set up for a really strong bottom lane with the Xayah and the Nautilus. And we have to see, what are you taking into the Ksante, Zika? Because these 2 AD top laner bans, like you say, coming out from BLG, but the Jackson Renekton bans in the first round really hurting Zika as well. LNG kind of banning their own top laner out to some extent, and it will be the Gnar locked in the end.
Yeah, it will be the Gnar. They needed AD, right? We spoke about those 2 AD top lane bans kind of maybe pushing Zika towards a Gwen answer, but it will just end up being the Gnar instead. Now, where do we go for BLG? Something like Braum could always be fine, but again, Alistar, all of these things are really solid options for on. It just depends on the flavor of how they're looking to play out this game. I feel like without the Sejuani, it's going to be a lot less about, you know, that full-blown early game power that we saw pairing up to really shut down Zika on the top side, and with the Kha'Zix a lot more about trying to hit that level 6 evolution mark, and then you're really kind of getting the ball rolling, as 2v2 on the bottom side should be kind of stable. I feel like this time, Munch, LNG have removed away enough proactivity tools from BLG that this scaling game that they seem to want to play can actually be piloted out with not as much threat as game number 1.
It feels possible, doesn't it? But then there is Bin on Ksante, and this time Shun's on a Kha'Zix. There's certainly snowball options. And I feel like you can visually up against JDG in the final. And whoever does that has that opportunity. It's game number 2, BLG versus LNG. It's just not even close, is it? There's like 3 or 4 really stout LNG supporters that they're doing their damnedest. They're shouting loud. But then it's just the rest of the stadium for BLG.
I've got to say, shout out to that one, it sounds like a lady, just giving it her all for LNG just to be crushed by the entire rest of the venue.
You've got to respect the attempt, haven't you? You've got to respect the commitment to the cause.
Exactly. Let's see, maybe LNG again, you know? I said it at the start of the game, that I was like, well, if Xayah was like that, you know, LNG could silence the critics inside the venue. BLG, I feel like keeping the LNG faithful that seem to be present in Xi'an. Yeah, very, very tempered.
Game number
2 as well.
Game number 1, the only thing LNG are silencing is their fans, honestly. We'll see if things can look a little bit better for them here in game number 2. Let's talk win conditions. Tarzan on this Maokai once again. But, I mean, the Xayah Nautilus, fantastic bot lane combo. You've got Scout on the Azir once again, who almost found greatness in that final team fight.
Okay.
Zika ended up having to go for Hop at level 1.
Yeah, not the end of the world leveling Hop, right? But now you don't have W or Q at level 2, which is, you know, it feels bad, but you'll hit 3 quite quickly. Either way, it looks awkward for a moment. Like you were mentioning, though, and setting up for LNG, a lot more about just, again, front-to-back team fighting. You've got engage options between Tarzan and between Hung. Very, very easy to execute engage options too, right? But again, some of the lane matchups, 1-to-1, a little bit rough, right? LeBlanc should be able to win out 1v1, whether it be early priority or once she gets the Shiv, entirety in priority. And then down here, very difficult to always engage on the Braum. You're worried about the concussive blow stacking up and really becoming an issue. So where do you go as LNG? Do you just kind of wait again? Do you play to nullify proactive plays? I feel like that's where you're really looking to play as. LNG, dredge line.
On still level 1 here. Trying to move up close enough to hit the level 2. Elkin on in a bit of trouble as the heal comes out. It's traded for the Ignite, so 1-for-1 on some of the spells in this bottom lane. I feel like it's one thing that's happened a lot across these playoffs is LPL teams not respecting level 2 spikes in the bottom side. Like, it feels like a lot of LPL bot lanes still willing to go aggressive while a level down early on in the lane.
Yep, I do agree. I was just kind of racking my brain on it. I was just like thinking about so many times I've seen 2v2s here in the LPL be decided just because there's a bit of disrespect on a hook at level 1 or whatever it may be. Definitely something.
It feels odd, doesn't it? It feels odd.
Especially when you think about like how strong our bottom laners are as a whole, whether it be the AD carry pool or the support pool, for that matter. But I think that seems to be a consistent thing is, I wouldn't say worrying, but definitely very strange.
I think that's where it comes from, though, is like the belief that I'm just going to beat you. Like, I feel like there's this level of like, I must posture and I must fight. I'm going to hold that thought. There's Shun posturing towards Tarzan here. Spotted out, though, as was Yagao. The play is denied. BLG trying to move in for something aggressive as they've traded scuttles, and now Shun looks like he wants to try and find Tarzan in the jungle, who's in the bot tri-brush right now. Will spot out Shun. Not sure that's a 1v1 that either jungler wants at this point in the game, honestly. They want to get into this bottom lane. On, hooked in by Hung, flashes away as Gala could be rooted up here by the Graviton, but looks like it was on cooldown.
Looks like it was on cooldown, or maybe mana. I'm not too sure how much that root costs off the top of my head. Either way, not able to find any lockdown. On does lose his flash though, so again, we're talking about wanting LNG to look to punish things. Flashless Braum, whilst maybe not your ideal target, certainly can be something where you can play towards. Hook into flash W maybe? I'm pretty sure he's not on vision on that tri-brush ward. Nope. Don't want it. Okay. So, LNG opt for the reset, and again, you know, at the very least, there is one good thing in this game compared to number 1, Joe. It's the fact that Shun hasn't bullied Zika out of the game already. So, we're a step up already. However, a dive this early on, probably unexpected by LNG, happening nonetheless. Tarzan's here to cover it though. Let's see how quick he can get
is
in.
moving over. Gala's just going to get one shot though. Elk tanks for one shot. And actually it's onto the minions once again. They're going to walk away from this one as Shun tanks the tower. In goes Tarzan, but Yagao arriving on the scene. The aftershock makes him so damn tanky. And it ends up with a 1-for-1 for now. A hook out from Hung is beautiful, but Shun still walks away.
Shun still manages to walk away. First blood goes over to the Kha'Zix, though. That always feels good, getting that cash injection early on. See how aggressive the build is, right? You've seen a lot of priority on the new Dustblade, specifically, but also things, of course, like the traditional... I always forget the ward item name, man. I don't know why, but, you know, the Vision one, and you clear away
Umbral
wards.
Glaive.
Umbral Glaive, yeah.
I thought you were on about Wardstone for a second there. I was like, what are you talking about?
Because whenever I think about that item, I think of... now I can't even remember what I think about. That is a good start. Either way, this dive was, yeah, pretty unavoidable from Gala's perspective. Once he gets rooted, he's pretty much just one shot on. No flash from earlier on, and at the very least it is punished. Shun also forced to use his own flash, so now Kha'Zix a little bit more vulnerable, and into Maokai, that can definitely be an issue if there's damage dealers around to actually capitalize on the CC. So we'll see again whether or not that punishment will come through as this time. Hey, you know, Zika, he's down 10 CS, but he's not down like 4 levels, you know? So this is also something that is kind of positive because, again, this Gnar should eventually look to win out on the side lane 1v1 into Bin.
Yeah, it should have that range advantage for most of the laning phase. I'm just taking a look at the mid lane CS, and is it me, or did Yagao roam down to dive in the bottom lane and watch Scout crash like one or two waves, and is still somehow even in CS? Like, what has happened in the mid lane where he's still allowed to be even in CS? That's straight up illegal.
You know what? I'm convinced that ever since LeBlanc with Static Shiv came out, you know, it feels like they just print extra CS. You know, like I feel like for so many years we saw like LeBlanc's, like traditional AP LeBlancs just like kind of fall down behind in CS, and that would be kind of normal because CSing on LeBlanc was always kind of difficult. And then, you know, hey, there would still be a poke major and assassin, but with Static Shiv, farming is just so much easier with all the extra AD. And you know, apparently they were just missing loads of CS back in the day.
I guess so.
And, it made it look a lot worse than it actually was. Level 6 has been crested for Shun. That's a big power point for BLG now. They can look to skirmish a lot more freely, but also the objectives, right? Dragon, if he's given a window, that can be taken down very quickly. Herald as well. We have to keep our eyes on the BLG jungler, see if he ever finds a window on top of anyone, especially if they're alone.
That'll be the question. And I will say Tarzan doing a much better job of reading where Shun is on the map this time. Every time he's trying to make a play towards the bottom side, just like Tarzan's there. Look available for Hung here, and we'll get one shot on, but Gala just getting absolutely railed. The level 6 spike from Out-Use just to make sure that Gala cannot leave his tower right now. Dragon being done by Shun, and the pressure just being layered out by BLG to make sure that Shun is safe.
Yeah, point of power now, where as the Kha'Zix with the evolved claws, you can really get through those objectives super quickly. Did that one alone. No pressure from Tarzan. New Scout was resetting, and of course with the 2v2 going the way it was from BLG, has all the windows in the world to slip that one away, and now the Herald will be the next point, right? And it seems like Bin, again, a little bit of priority. There's enough vision up there as well, and they know where Tarzan is, and Tarzan's got to reset relatively soon, as he's kind of gone through his full clear. Otherwise he's going to be sat on Bammies, and that's it. Whereas Shun already got that first item completed up. Very cheap, of course, in comparison, but still an item completion nonetheless.
Scout actually might be caught out here. Yagao doesn't have much mana, but he's got AD items. Roots come out from Tarzan, and actually this could be a turnaround. Shun's in all kinds of trouble here. Knocked up and taken down. That's a double buff for Scout.
Yeah, double buff for Scout. We spoke about earlier how Shun can be very easily picked off without flash. Timer's coming up right about now as he respawns. So that was perfect timing for the play. A little bit awkward from BLG looking for Scout, who was definitely a little bit mispositioned. As now that's pretty much going to give over Herald as well to LNG, which is not really the way that the tempo of play was leaning into.
This is huge.
LNG will feel happy about this, yeah.
This is absolutely massive for LNG. We said they've got to contest BLG in this early game, finding a massive pick off the back of that ward onto Shun here. And it's off the back of trading with Yagao, but Yagao had no mana. There was no way for Yagao to really participate in the play. And so it turns into a big little fight win. Big little?
Big little.
It turns into a fight win anyway for LNG. 400 gold up, Herald in pocket. Elk will get a plate on the bottom side in response, but still, good things for LNG. Much better than what we saw in game 1.
Yeah, much better, that's for sure. And again, I just think the fact that BLG are so much more limited in the ease of access to plays in comparison to game number 1. Just gives so much more breathing room back to LNG, which they desperately needed after a stomp like that. You need game 2 to look a little bit stable in the opening stages, and stable is, I think, probably the perfect word to describe this early game so far. Let's see what they can look to continue to do, because again, they're the ones with the easier engage tools this time around, right? For BLG, they don't really have engage when you think about it, right? It's trying to maybe make Braum step forward. It's realistically waiting for LNG to maybe overstep, and then you're looking for re-engage at best. This composition is not really suited to 5v5, how you could kind of flex the previous composition to 5v5. This one's a lot more suited to, you know, skirmishing, small scale, side lanes, that kind of thing. LNG will constantly throw 5 bodies at a play if they can.
Yeah. I feel like BLG even more indexed into that. We don't want to actually 5v5 you. We don't really want to fight you. We just want to out macro you. That's what happened in the previous game, playing through those side lanes, playing through individual advantages. And I will say Elk has built up a sizable lead in this bottom side. 2 plates taken, almost 20 CS lead as well. He's really doing some work for his team in that bottom side as Shun wants to move into the top side. That's the hop out from Zika. Gets the tower plate, but suspects that something is going on here and will back away.
Yeah, the bigger problem really is that Zika's about to hit Mega Gnar, so that window's kind of closed. Very difficult to kill that guy. Yagao will get his passive force now, but he's got teleport, so he's not too fussed about that. Herald for Tarzan, is it just going to be this drop here in the mid lane because they know Yagao has to reset? Yes, it will be. So looking for a chunk, as many places they can get. There will be a teleport out at the very least to defend it, but these 2 places will still go down to Scout. That's going to feel good. Injection, chains go wide. So Dragon, that's going to be the next point of focus. Can BLG maybe make something happen?
Oh, all in on the bottom side. Gala the target. Featherstorm instantly and pulls those feathers back. But the Moonlight Vigil with Gravitum can't really set up for much more. Ons, cooldowns, not available. It will just turn into ults for ults here in the bottom side.
Yeah, I feel like this ult trade, I think it's better for BLG. I feel like LNG kind of require, you know, Featherstorm, Depth Charge to really, you know, navigate fights way easier. So we'll see whether or not that plays into effect for the Dragon, because those almost are for sure going to be down the next 30 seconds. As we keep getting pictures of the top side trades. Curiously.
It's just been, isn't it? Finding advantages slowly but surely. As Shun now looks for a dive in the bottom side. Gala and Hung, you've been here before, but this time no Featherstorm available for Gala. 2 stacks on him, but BLG having to retreat. A teleport comes out from Scout. Does have the Emperor's Divide available, and Shun and On the wrong side of the rift right now. On will have to be sacrificed here, tries to jump over the wall, but denied. And Hung can't quite get over either. Shun, you gotta get out of the dodge because Tarzan's arriving as well. And it all goes a bit pear-shaped for BLG. LNG answering everything in the early game.
Pete Tong, very, very strange. I mean, I kind of understand the idea of the dive, but once the teleport comes down, you have to disengage, and there's just no real way out. Now BLG, they're trying to kind of half contest this Dragon. I mean, the best they can hope for is a steal here. I think Kha'Zix Q'd, a bit more damage, let's see.
Oh, good dodge from Yagao on the roots as Elk just goes in 1v2. Bin TPing in. Yes, Drake is taken, but Tarzan caught in the back here. He'll go down for sure. There's Bin. He TP'd down here and he doesn't even get an assist.
Yeah, that feels bad for Bin. Zika, does he have enough time to get the whole tower, I think, is the question. Another wave's on the way. It's a cannon wave too. Bin will probably make it up here in time, but still not. Oh!
It's kind of clean from Bin. He's absolutely destroyed Scout. Forces a flash out, and Scout just fleeing, but Bin is not letting him go anywhere. Flashes over the wall. Scout gets underneath the tower, but my God, Bin was angry he didn't get that assist earlier.
Giga Bin. Very, very angry, you're right. Meanwhile, BLG, they get that tower on the bottom side. Zuka's overcommitted for the confirm. He's dead. It's just about how much
he wanted the tower. I just don't... Like, he saw Bin chasing Scout across the map. How did he think he was safe to continue this play? Flashes away, and actually, he's got teammates getting him out of here. Does he actually get away with this one? That is insane. Zika gets 2 tier 1s across the map. I take it all back. Zika with the outplay.
That's a heist, complete heist from Zika, and that's got to be a mild tier for BLG, right? They lose the top tier 1 tower, they don't get the kill on Scout, and then they lose the mid lane tier 1 as well on top of that. Doesn't feel great. This dive, though, from BLG, again, You know, no ultimate on Gala. You kind of understand the idea, but it's just too difficult to dive. And then the teleport comes in. There's no realistic retreat path for On. I think if Yagao's down here and this is a 4v2 dive at the start of the play, then it's something that's worth, you know, making the endeavor for. But 3 versus 2 just feels like a massive overreach, and they get punished. They don't actually get the second dragon either, BLG, and it's well defended by LNG.
Certainly is, 3-2. And this is what we wanted, right? As we broach the 16-minute mark now, gold within touching distance between the two teams. Xun has finished his Umbral Glaive. He's got a serrated Dirk on top of it as well. He's feeling pretty strong right now. But in a 5v5, Kha'Zix doesn't really thrive. It's not what he wants, as On has been caught out. Unbreakable tanks a lot and jumps over to his team, but he's still gone down. Scout with another kill. That'll be Herald for LNG. And On, I think, really underestimating the level of engage from LNG here, as Bin is going to go back in anyway. 4v5, here we go. Root's coming on through, though. Bin's locked up, so is Yagao. And now LNG can just walk this one forward. Surely they have the advantage as Scout. Empress Divide is a little bit of a whiff, but hey, it's still 4 kills.
Stops people from going forward, though, and the back end of the play. And this is really awkward. Again, BLG, their composition, it's just not suited for, you know, these kind of 5v5 engagements. You have to break up, you know, a rotation. You have to catch somebody, you know, isolated to really make something work. It has to be numbers advantage. It can never be 5v5 flat out, because again, LNG can hold their ground if they're in the objective first. The fights will always play out like that. So big issue that BLG are going to have to problem solve. But of course, it does make life a bit difficult when On gets caught out like this at the very start. Dredge line's very clean. Bin can't really go in without On. And then again, Xun doesn't really have an angle on anyone. He was approaching from the top side, maybe looking for a wraparound, but once the Braum goes down, it's a bit too difficult, and then the re-engage from Tarzan as easy as you know.
Yeah, it's just a bit much from BLG, isn't it, really? I'm not sure there was a world where... Oh, I see. The ult was for the Kha'Zix, because Xun had gone invisible. On in the meantime is charging forwards once again. Yagao trying to get onto Gala here, but he can't quite find his mark and zips on back. Tarzan pulled in. Bin getting some damage down. The all out there as Bin falls as well. Zika turns mega but misses the ulti. And it's 4v4 now.
Awkward flash from Tarzan in the middle of that. Maybe could have gotten out, but I think he flashed on the spot if I saw that correctly. Really unlucky, I suppose, but they trade 1-for-1 jungler for top laner. With no objective on the map, it just gives LNG a bit of time to siege up. The only good thing for BLG and the bad thing for LNG is that because Tarzan died, he was one of the heralds, so there's no, you know, major tower punishment here in the mid lane. And it will just be resets as we look to kind of retake position around this dragon. Ocean Dragon, Rift, Salt, we haven't really spoken about it. It'll be very potent, I think, for both these compositions if they're able to secure it, but it's about getting there with one apiece at basically 19 minutes. We're not going to see a soul for a very long time.
Feels like, especially for Bin, if you can get that soul on Ksante, my god, the value that you get in those longer fights can be something else. But now LNG, they wrestle themselves a lead away from BLG. 2,000 gold up, Drake spawning in 2 seconds. BLG have shown that they are not willing to let LNG take anything without a fight. Even 4v5, BLG are willing to fight for some reason.
Exactly.
So certainly won't let this Drake go.
No, they weren't. They're starting up as well. Okay, so the only good thing about doing this, LNG, their composition, it needs to be in front first, right? They want to get engaged on. Moving forward's a bit awkward, and with Braum, you can always re-engage and pick a target easily. The Dragon's being burst down. Herald on the bottom side. Let's see how LNG handle this one.
One could be a target here as Yagao on the flank. Chains hits the Herald, though. It's not ideal as Drake taken BLG full retreat at this point as Tarzan steps on forward, but the Moonlight Vigil is huge. He's on to everyone. Elk knocked into the play, though, straight into the feathers and taken down Zika. Ult spin as Xun is on to Scout here, but he doesn't have the damage. The health buzzer low, but they take him out anyway. Zika has to go heroic here. A hook out from Hung. Xun behind the wall here, looking for Gnar. Yagao and Xun just about on top of the scrap.
Zuka's such a monster. He's playing these team fights really well. But on the opposite side, BLG were able to find target access onto all of the other carries of LNG. So it kind of ends up being a neutral exchange. But BLG picked up the dragon, so that's kind of the one-up. As I say, neutral. 4-4-3 in the back end of it all.
These fights are so messy, so scrappy, so hard to track because everyone's diving around everywhere. I feel like it's Yagao and Xun you've got to keep your eyes on.
Yeah, but also keep your eyes on Scout, right? He finds Elk. Massive Moonlight Vigil, right? But good shuffle. Reaction from On is great, but no flash available. The feather pullback actually connects On to the Aphelios. Not necessarily intended, looking to actually survive the dive in Gala's own right, but then, again, you know, massive dive here from everybody on BLG to take down the members they need to. But again, I feel like it's going to be the Zika show this time out.
I love that you see that moment at the end of the fight where there's 4 players stood on top of each other. Hang on. Is once again hooked in. And once again will be taken down here. Blast Cone denied. And with On down, can LNG actually just stop Baron?
Yeah, I think they can. They've got a 2-item Azir. They don't have a 2-item AD carry, but I think that's still going to be enough DPS. BLG, what are you going to do about this?
This is going to be a tough one. Yagao moving in. Shun on the top side alongside Bin. They've got to try and fight 44v5 this game. You know that they're going to be willing to. Is Tarzan taking a few chunks here? The Calibrum paying dividends from Elk. It's now into the pit they go, but 2k on the Baron. The root is onto the Kha'Zix, and it means that Shun's in late. He'll be taken down, but he gets one alongside Yagao before he drops. Elk now being jumped on, but Zika a little shy on the mark. Ult goes wide, and now he's taken down. Tarzan diving into the backside, but Yagao protecting Elk. Gala caught up by the Gravitum here as Scout dives over the wall, but the stun comes into play. The ult out from On as well. He's stuck over the wall, and Yagao takes him out. LNG, they get the Baron, but it's only Gala alive.
It's only Gala alive. I mean, BLG, they're actually trying to hunt down for the AD carry of LNG. He will be able to walk away, though. What an awkward and messy fight, Munch. That was very fortunate on LNG's part. Tarzan dropped the ultimate, massive root field. Shun not able to get into that pit. Otherwise, I feel like the angle that he had, it's one of those things. You know when you look at a jungler outside the pit and you just know they're going to steal it? That's what it felt like for BLG there. Very overzealous it felt like from LNG. Yes, you get the pick onto On to kick this sequence off, but it's so flipped in my mind. Ultimate comes through. You're going to see here, Shun just gets rooted up for just enough time. The Baron to go down, secured by Gala. Shun and Yagao able to take down Hung inside the pit. Great flash here from Elk. Actually, a Gale Force, never mind. From Zika. And his attempt onto his life. Then the pullback again onto Tarzan. Makes sure that he goes down. Gala not able to overstep. But then Scout here just... He's not expecting On to be here, is he? I think that's the real thing. Not expecting him to be back so soon.
That play from Scout at the end there is a bit of desperation, feeling like, my God, I've got all of the kills, my team are dying. Like, I've got to do something. I've got to make a play. I've got to hold on to this game after they've just taken Baron as well. Felt like he had to do something, but didn't work out for him. And BLG, once again, like, you're describing these fights as messy, scrappy, right? And that's exactly what BLG want. That's the kind of composition they've got. Big damage onto Hung here. Zika not so healthy himself as Gala walks away. Tarzan just being whittled away by Yagao. And it feels like BLG are starting to wrestle control of this game. Gold is even on the top of the scoreboard. And LNG, they don't lose any players, but my God, they get destroyed in the fight.
Yeah, they're getting pressured, right? And the thing is, Gala escaped with the Baron. You're hoping that maybe you can kind of move him around as the king piece of chess and try and take down at least 1 or 2 structures. Doesn't end up working out. But the pressure being put down the way it has been, BLG basically stave off what little pressure could have happened from that Baron. So good job, BLG. As now LNG maybe eyeing up this next dragon. And you know, it's so, I find it comical. We kind of set up the 2 compositions like LNG, 5v5, front to back, you know, really kind of set the pace of each team fight, make sure you're securing areas. BLG, we're like, you know, they can't really 5v5, they're still doing it. Ridiculously. A lot of it, you know, I think despite On having a bit of a rough game by scoreline, I think the Braum just provides so much in terms of being able to set up 14 fights generally.
Yeah, he's still been valuable. And that big fight that they managed to win On was the linchpin of the play. Dragon will go down to LNG here as BLG still threatening a fight. Shun behind enemy lines as Gala could be in trouble from Yagao, but been on that front line, just getting shredded by Gala. Flashes on forwards, looking for the all-out. The knockback comes on through. Yagao's been taken out. Defenders come back as well. Gala has his moment to take over a fight. It's a 2-for-1 in favor of LNG. Baron not on the map, though.
Baron not on the map. That was a strange one from BLG. Yagao just not respecting Tarzan's W and Bin as well. Kind of a little bit too far forward, maybe trying to help the Pincer move out, but doesn't come to fruition. LNG secure a dragon. We're now at 2 apiece, so there's just not going to be a soul forever. What's caught your eye?
Did you see the Baron power play there for LNG was minus 975 gold? That is just brutal, isn't it? Oh dear, LNG, they're trying to damn this. And they certainly, let's just remember that while BLG are fighting back here, LNG have an Azir on 3 items at 25 minutes. Like, Scout is a monster on the Rift at this point, and Gala is building up too. The concern I've got is that Elk is also in that demon territory of 3 items.
Yeah, exactly. Aphelios, so many years. We've seen it time and time again. Yagao, does he just disrespect Tarzan? Yes. And I mean, to be fair, it's a flash W, so it's at that range, very difficult to react to, but then the chain CC comes down. Either way, again, disrespect. Bin maybe trying to get hung over the wall, use him as a taxi out. Not quite close enough to that wall, however, and he drops.
I feel like Yagao a little disrespectful, and LNG, they took that personally. 3 ults immediately, just slammed at him like, you're going nowhere. There's still 5 stacks on the Dark Seal, despite the death from Yagao, as this LeBlanc with this Shiv can really start to come into its own. This side lane pressure that you bring to the table is so difficult to deal with. It's going to be Zika sent down to try and answer, but Shun's moving over as well. Zika's in trouble here as the chains do land. Second chain denied, though. Zika will turn Mega, will survive. Tarzan arriving means Shun should have to back away.
Yeah, exactly. Backup returns from LNG, and no longer is that a threat. And, you know, that's what we were speaking about. This is really where the strength of the BLG composition lies. It's Yagao on a side lane, winning out 1v1 in isolation, bring Shun down, right? As long as Shun is not so committed that he's going to give up a Baron, that he can give cover, then he's feeling fine. Ooh.
That was a little close. That was a little close for Shun. I'm not sure if that was actually the Edge of Night blocking a 0 or if a Q had hit him first and he just managed to jump in time.
Yeah, it's awkward timing. You'd have to have a slow-mo replay to get confirmation, really. But the ultimate's on a relatively short cooldown. You can see in the bottom left, 40 seconds, so it's not the, you know, the biggest expenditure of resources in the world. As speaking of expending resources, time on top of this Baron, but it will be spotted out by that blue ward there of LNG. So no sneak will be had. And
that's
the threat.
That was
now.
TP from Zika. That was TP just to answer the 2-man potential Baron play coming out from BLG. So that's actually a huge moment for BLG. Off of very little pressure created, forcing a TP out from the enemy top laner.
They're going to do it again.
Just going to start this Baron again. They do have an Aphelios and a Kha'Zix. They do it real quick, but LNG are here to answer. There's another TP. BLG can retreat if they want to. Zika's about to turn Mega as well. On tanking up for now as Tarzan's been the target here. One. Zika makes his name known as Elk is alone on the backside of the play, but he's going nowhere. He'll be taken down as the feathers fly. Hun can set it up and Scout gets a bonus kill. That's double digits for Scout, and that's Baron for LNG.
Zuka's just been so 1v9, hasn't he? When he's turned up to these team fights, 3-man ultimate onto all of the carries remaining from BLG. The frontliners are being locked down, actually, by him. So he just did everything here for LNG. Excellent team fight. They've got the Baron now as well. There's quite a few tier 2s left up. Zuka's going to destroy one of the 3. Look for a reset, and now LNG, this is their opportunity to really break apart BLG. If you're looking for fights inside and around the base, you remove that flank potential that BLG are kind of looking to try and operate on, right? Look at the top side of the fight. That's being locked down by Hung and by Zuka. And then flash forward, hop, gets all 3 members up against walls. Immediately jumped on and pounced on by LNG. Elk's the only one that tries to make a meal of it, but immediately shut down as well.
There's only so much you can do at the end of a fight like that. Zika reminding BLG why they camped him in game number 1, why they felt they had to shut him down, because if you don't, he is a beast. 3 items on the Gnar, stopwatch available as well. And with Baron on top of a hull breaker, Zika is going to be a nightmare to deal with in the side lane now.
Absolutely, he will be. I mean, hey,
Scout's level 18.
Hullbreaker is just grouping. Yeah, like you say, Scout's level 18, 4 items now, and a blasting wand. I think this might be critical mass for BLG. The gold lead's exploded, but just generally, again, 5v5 BLG. So hard to step up to the
On spot,
fight.
Moonlight Vigil comes in as BLG, they want the fight.
Oh.
Bin jumps in, it's a Q3 onto everyone, as Elk still surviving on the back. Gala dives forward though. Shun might be able to find him here as he has to dash away. Elk's still alive, but he just can't get into the fight. And LNG still 5 strong. Elk and On versus the world here as Zika and Hung trying to defend the rest of the team. Flash forwards is On, unbreakable, but he's down. Broken in the end, and there's the Gnar ulti. Zika once again finding his mark. LNG, they remind us why they made it to this lower bracket final. 3rd seed from the regular season, but they don't want 3rd in playoffs.
Fantastic bounce back from LNG as well, considering what happened in game 1 to get here to game 2. Feels really good. Stabilize, make sure that BLG don't have any aggressive options, and then look to break them in the team fights because of how they've drafted themselves. And for LNG,